What would you do if the only way to save your home was to survive a forest that's trying to kill you? In Hollow, that's exactly what happens. Our FMC Ferris lives in a town where a cursed forest is taking over, and every 50 years they have this thing called the Great Hunt. During the Great Hunt, champions both Fae and human have to enter the forest and try to obtain 13 amulets from the 13 spirits that used to have a purpose within the woods. And these spirits have essentially lost their mind. And along with losing their mind, they also lost their purpose, their original purpose that they were supposed to carry out in the forest. Once all 13 amulets have been collected, they have to take it to this giant elm tree in the middle of the forest so that they can return the spirits and the curse will be broken. And the champion who is successful will receive a boon from the forest in return. Let's dive into this review. So this is a romantasy enemies to lovers, and I would give it a solid 3.5 to 4 out of 5 stars. And it is a little bit spicy. I'd give it like 2 to 2.5 spicy little peppers. Would I recommend this book? If you're into dark romance and you're into fantasy, sure, I would. But let's dive into the pros and cons first. Starting with the pros, this book is absolutely gorgeous. Like, can you even see it? The sprayed edges are beautiful. They have sprayed edges in blue and pink. I have the blue one. The inside cover art is just as stunning. The story was super captivating in my opinion. I really enjoyed myself as I was going through it. And I also really loved the lore for all of the spirits and the powers that each of them possessed. And the fact that once you gain an amulet for a spirit, essentially you get to almost wield the power of that spirit. And my final pro for this, I did not see the end coming. I didn't see it coming, but that will lead us into our cons that I had a hard time with the ending because for me, it didn't really seem to match the rest of the story. Another con for me would be there were a lot of typos in the book, and I felt that the tone of the story and the way that the characters spoke didn't always reflect that of the fantasy and like match the rest of the book. Like sometimes they would be talking in like a high fantasy type of way, and other times it felt a little more modern, and I just felt like it didn't always stay consistent. And my last con for this would be that there wasn't a lot of character variety once the MMC was introduced. We start the story with just the FMC Ferris and she goes into the forest, and then once the MMC is introduced, we don't really see a lot of the other characters, which was lost on me a little because this is supposed to be this great hunt with all these champions entering into the forest, and I felt like we didn't really have that many run-ins with side characters. Those of you that haven't read the story, go ahead and skip ahead now because this is going to be the spoiler section of the review. So diving right in, I'm going to go into my gripes first with this because for me, there was a good bit of gripe. Although I really enjoyed most of the story, I did feel like most of my gripes came in at the end. When Ferris leaves Hendrix and he like loses his mind and his blight spreads into the earth and everything around him dies, I loved that scene. I thought it was so powerful and there was so much emotion in it, and it really truly showed you how Hendrix felt about Ferris and how important Ferris was to him, even if he showed it in a little bit of a toxic way. The man does not know how to show love. We know this. But he literally says in the story that Ferris had awoken something in his soul and he couldn't go on without her. But then in the end, Ferris claims the boon and Hendrix essentially hates her. It's like all of that went out the window. And for me, that was tough because Hendrix has been this like lonely old necromancer stuck without love for centuries and dealing with all of these issues with his family, and always felt pulled to the forest, and finally gets there and finds Ferris, and he knew there was a possibility she was going to get this boon. He says it the whole story. Like, it can't just be that he's so cocky that he thought he was going to get the boon, because the whole story he's talking about, oh, well, she might actually give me a run for my money with this. Like, there's a real possibility Ferris might claim the boon. I just don't want her to get hurt. Like, all these things he was saying, and then he hates her. He hates her now. Like, it's hatred. She even says in the end, she looked in his eyes and she couldn't see any of the former feelings that she had seen in his eyes. All she saw now was just a hatred and just a darkness. And I'm like, okay, what happened to all that talk about throughout this whole story, all this buildup of him being like, I can't deny it anymore. I can't deny how I feel about her. Just for that? I don't know. It didn't add up to me. And another huge gripe that I had was with Rissa in the end. I feel like it wasn't the big plot twist that the authors might have thought it to be. It wasn't one of those twists that I read and was like, oh my god, like, I can't believe that just happened. It was more like, oh my god, I can't believe that just happened. After reading this whole story, this is what we get. So for me, that was a little bit of a letdown, and I don't know how to feel about it. But I will say, I know I'm not the only one that felt this way, and a lot of the critique is like there was nothing leading up to that to say that this is how Rissa was gonna be. But I disagree with that. I remember there was a cursed one in the woods who warned Ferris about the one with silver eyes or something like that. And it does talk about Rissa having silver eyes. And then also with her bonding with the serpent, like, I never got the vibe from Rissa that she really wanted out and back into the world, to be honest. So, that being said, my gripes with this, I think they are redeemable in book 2. I think that book 2 could do a lot for this story to tie everything together. And honestly, my rating of this book could change once book 2, Lightwing, comes out. If they do a good enough job with wrapping up all these unanswered questions and all these kind of holes in the story in the second book, that would really help the rating that I gave this book a lot, because I really, really did enjoy it. I really enjoyed most of the book. It was a lot more of the ending that I struggled with. Now let's move on to what I loved about this book. There was so much that I loved about this book. I loved the characters. I thought that they were portrayed well. I loved Ferris's growth throughout the story. She started coming into the forest as like not confident in herself at all and just kind of mopey, I guess you could say. Like, she was really not fending for herself. And I feel like when she got attacked by that hollow and Hendrix came in, I feel like that was a big turning point for her and a shift for her. And also their time in the castle, and then when she got the dragon. Like, I feel like there were definitely points that you can pinpoint where Ferris got a little bit more and more confident as she learned more and as she came into herself. And I really, really enjoyed that about her. I thought her character growth was really nice and refreshing. I also thought that Hendrix's character growth was really nice and refreshing. But like I said, that kind of all went out the window in the end whenever he decided that he hated Ferris again. So we'll see how I feel about him. The second book seems like it's going to be more Hendrix heavy. I also really enjoyed Ferris's bond with the dragon and the raven specifically. I thought her bond with the raven was so sweet, especially in the end whenever the raven got shot and she cried. Even though the raven just went back into the amulet and then came back out, like, you could feel her emotion in that moment and how it hurt her just to even see the raven get hurt. And even when the dragon is like being kind of a pain in the ass and like doesn't want to help Ferris, the raven wants to, even though it's not allowed to. I thought that the dragon really pushed Ferris, even though a lot of the time it was so stubborn and had this kind of like ire to it. And I didn't always understand that. But that being said, it was still a really great relationship that they had. And the dragon brought upon Ferris a lot of the growth and a lot of the self-realization that she needed and kind of prompted that within her. But anyways, if you stayed this long, thank you so much for watching. I really did enjoy this read, and I have really high hopes for the second book, Lightwing, when it comes out this August. And I think it'll help to solve some of the issues that I had with this first book. It's honestly so hard to judge a book that's part of a series before the whole series is out, because that's like watching one episode of a show and saying, okay, well, I don't like the show. I'm excited for the second book, and sometimes you really do need to see the rest of the series to bring it all together. And I think we might see that from this series, especially with Hollow ending how it did. I think it leaves a lot of room for growth and questions answered. If you like this video, please be sure to like and subscribe. Leave a comment and let me know if you agree or disagree with anything that I said. Let me know if you read the book, if you liked it, if you didn't like it. That's all for me for now. See you guys in the next one. Bye. Mwah.